Welcome to the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. Whether inside or outside the loop, we are talking everything soccer in Houston. Y'all ready? Let's get it. Houston, welcome back to another episode of the Bayou City Soccer Podcast. My name is Rudy Segura. This is a fantastic episode that I'm looking so forward to. Today, we'll be heading down to Rio Grande Valley for a conversation you do not want to miss, as we are joined by the founder and president of RGV Red Crowns, Jamal Fayyad, to talk supporters, culture, the growth of the game in South Texas, what's next for soccer in the Valley. Covey, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
What's up, everybody? I'm Jamal, and this is the way. Oh, so wait. Wrong podcast. Rudy, what's up, man? Good seeing you. Love what you guys have been doing, what you've created, what you've continued to do. Valley's home for me, but I'm a Houston boy at heart, and so it's crazy. I'm going to admit something before we start setting everything off. I listen to all my podcasts at two times speed. I think this is the first time I ever heard your intro in its original speed, and it just blew my mind. I'm missing out on this whole time. So no, man, thanks for having me. This is an exciting project. This is a project built off of passion for the sport. Being there since the Robertson days. I've loved American soccer, but the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten into the lower leagues of American soccer. So starting the Red Crowns was this passion project where I love the Dynamo. I think they do a lot of things not the best, and I think the same thing happened with the Toros when I was working for that organization. And it's not against anyone specific. I just think sometimes there's a luxury in being able to look from a bird's eye perspective. And when we started the Red Crowns, we knew we wanted to do something different, and we wanted to create this grassroots approach, kind of like what you see in Europe. And that's where we're at today.
Yeah, you kind of give a glimpse of what we're going to touch on today, because, you talk back about the way we ball, and we've reached out. I feel like I've known you for a couple of years now, even though we don't get to interact as much as maybe as we would like. I think the Dynamo kind of brings this community together in Houston that like soccer, but it goes beyond that. And we were hoping to get you on our podcast. I know you're a faithful listener, but we're hoping to get you sooner than later. And you got kind of busy, and this is kind of where it let you, right? I mean, the RGV Crowns has been what has taken your time. And so I truly mean it, Jamal, whenever I talk about, getting to know more information about this project that you guys have down there in the Valley, because especially between Houston and the Valley and Mexico, there's just so much culture that is tied together. I personally, and I think I mentioned this to you when we first started talking, but I have a lot of family in Reynosa, on the Mexican border, as well as McAllen. It just has blossomed into that, and we have been. Feels like every 3 months, man, I'm down there just to see some family in the RGV area. So when this project came about, I know Edson, it's our correspondent down there, and the more information we got, I was excited just because of so much that has happened, and we'll touch on that kind of in RGV as a whole. But yeah, you talked a little bit about it. I guess let's go ahead and get started with the vision, Jamal. What inspired the creation of RGV Red Crowns?
Yeah. So, you mentioned it. I don't think we've ever said this out in public because things kind of ended abruptly. But the reason there's no more The Way We Ball is because this happened. I didn't realize how much work goes into starting a club. And then my co-host Brandon got a job with Major League Baseball. So we both kind of just got too busy for the podcast. So I always, whenever I do these episodes, shouts out to you guys, because I don't think people realize how much work goes into what you do, and to do it consistently is impressive within itself. So huge shout out there. But basically, the what happened was I worked for the Toros, and this was when I first took the gig. We were still under the Houston Dynamo, and so while I, as a fan, I love that relationship because I got to see the future Dynamo stars, or what I was hoping would be a little bit healthier of a relationship. Didn't really pan out to that, and it was a different time, different ownership, you know. But we finally did go independent, and I was there for that. I was a part of that front office that went independent from the Dynamo, and that club never felt like ours. We here, and I'm speaking as a Valley resident. I was here when the Toros were founded, and it honestly felt like somebody took something, put a bow on it, gave it, and said, "Here, you like soccer, so you're gonna like this." And I was just like, and we were always the Dynamo's second team. And I remember when this was all happening, I was again being excited, a Dynamo fan. But I remember thinking on the marketing side, like, you're in a tough market because everyone says like, oh man, Mexicans love soccer, the Hispanic community, Latino community. And I preach this, and I'll stand on this soapbox forever. That doesn't necessarily help you. Look at markets like Houston, even LA at one point, Chivas USA. These markets that are in heavily influenced Mexican areas sometimes struggle because you're going into a market that already has loyalty. They already have allegiance. So when you wrapped up a Dynamo second team and said, "Here, love it," they're not going to take that because people love America because their parents love America, their grandparents love America. I'm sure you have teams in Argentina and all over the world. And so my thing when we started the Red Crowns was, okay, we're going to make the Valley feel a part of this from day one, from the logo, the naming, the colors, every single thing we do. We have three pillars. That's being authentic, being genuine, and doing everything with intent. And every single thing we do, we do it with those three pillars in mind. And that's how we got to the Red Crowns was community input, putting the Valley first, and not making any type of decision without hearing from the people that make the Valley, and not just soccer fans, truly the Valley.
Yeah, I guess you touched a little bit on what was going to be my second question about just the landscape and what was missing. Clearly, your point is that it just didn't feel like your club, right? Like your city club or your region club being the RGV. But, also, what does this club, you guys, I mean, obviously right now it's the present being, what is this club represent? You guys want this club to represent beyond simply just fielding a soccer team, as you kind of already touched on, Jamal.
Yeah, so like, my biggest gripe with the Toros was nobody ever wore our stuff. Like, it wasn't cool to be a Toros fan, and I mean, the Dynamo, I feel like have gotten a little bit better, but you don't see people wearing Dynamo stuff the way you see Rockets, Astros, Texans, even. So my goal is one, I want to be a club that the citizens of the Valley are proud of, but I also want to be an identity. I want to be that logo you wear when you're outside of the Valley and you want to represent home, or you want to be proud of where you're from. So the ultimate goal is to be an identity for the region. I mean, right now it's like, it's all low hanging fruit, tacos, tacuaches, like, there's it's always almost a mockery at some point. So the goal was to create this brand that people are like will take ownership and say that's ours. And so
Hmm.
going back to our approach, we had QR codes throughout the valley from Brownsville, the southernmost tip, all the way to Mission, the and on the west side of the Rio Grande Valley. And it had nothing to do with soccer. It just asked, what colors do you think of? What animals do you think of when you think of the valley? Do you call it the valley? Do you call it Rio Grande Valley? Do you call it 956? What resonates with you? Do you like this the Quache like logo that everyone seems to throw at us? And we took all that information, and after over 1,000 or so surveys, that's how we came up with the Red Crowns. Nobody said the Red Crowns, but everybody loved birds, and so we knew that we had to incorporate some kind of bird.
Yeah, and I guess you touched on a little bit of obviously the RGV Toros and maybe not necessarily being rep like you guys wanted to with the gear and I guess merchandise out there, but would you you know soccer obviously was still a thing, and I know there was a couple different supporter groups out there, but how much did it leave a hole in the community or a hunger to make this Red Crown project to try to rebuild or strengthen the soccer culture in the region, Jamal?
Um, It's tough to say. I don't know if there was really a yearning for professional soccer to come back, or soccer at some point, because again, we're in a big heavily influenced market with Mexico, with Hispanics. So I think people still had their team. I think the Toros were. I don't know if the Toros were anyone's like number one team. I know we had our Stampede who loved the Toros and they were loud and they were present at every game. But people still had their Tigres. People still had their America, Chivas. I still had Dynamo. So I don't know if there was like this fandom like we need soccer back. But I will say there was this opportunity for our players, our athletes, because the Toros had an academy, an idea academy that was tied to the club. There was a lot of players who, for whatever reason, don't play college or didn't maybe go straight to the pros. So what I saw was this yearning for that gray area, for those players that need an alternative to the traditional pathway, and that was a big inspiration for building this club. I when I was done with Toros, I there was a good 2 3 years where I was happy with just having my Saturdays back to myself, watching Liverpool in the mornings and watching Dynamo in the evenings, and that was it. I was good. It took a trip to England to really open my eyes and watching lower league clubs over there in markets way smaller than ours, like markets the size of like Rosenberg for context, but they got together for the club, and it's like, okay, there's something there, but again, it has to be done authentic, genuine, and with intent. So when I came back from that trip, that's what inspired me. And then the more I got to meet former athletes of the Toros, former fans of the Toros, it's like, okay, there was always this gray area missing, and I hope we can fulfill that, as far as helping these local athletes make it to the next level.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. For specifically for myself, yeah, I went to London last October, and even in that big city, there's just so many little ecosystems, right? Because there's so many teams. I mean, you walk a couple blocks, and there's another professional stadium, and then there's a championship stadium, and so forth, and going down the list. And you just made me think of something, man. I was hoping to rep some Red Crowns, but I saw the Welcome to Wrexham people bid me as to it. So I know that that's another team that I think, as somebody that follows soccer, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you follow them too and kind of their story, but it's intriguing as well, right? The way that the as you mentioned, the small towns or small fan bases are willing to go all in and grow that culture. But apart from the soccer aspect of it, how, you mentioned a little bit, I guess the community has responded very well to it, but also how important it is for the Red Crowns, to collaborate with local vendors, small businesses, and community shops around the RGV to continue to blossom this.
Yeah, I mean it's everything. It's our bloodline, so to speak. I think a lot of clubs could learn from that. I know the Toros felt very corporate. It was very corporate. They had this beautiful multi-million-dollar stadium. They had that Dynamo affiliation. They had big name players. You had Drogba coming to the stadium one time. Like it just felt very corporate, and corporate isn't always cool. I'll just be blunt about it. So we try to be. I honestly I call it guerrilla marketing in the sense that we try to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. You won't see billboards, you won't see commercials, but we're going to be at your local brewery or at your local bar. You'll see a sticker on the street. You'll see graffiti about us. So we try to take that approach with an edge. So with that being said, it is important for us to work with local businesses because I don't want to be tied down to a corporate entity. I don't want to be tied down to this one. I don't want to name names, but we don't work with a specific beer company because we want to have our own control. We want to work with the local brewery, not the corporate brewery. So when you go to the only brewery in town, Pluton Brewery, we have two Red Crown branded drinks. We have the Red Crown Lager, the original, and the Red Crown Dark Lager. And we use local artists to come up with the can design. So from the can to the actual beer itself to being served at our games, it's 100% local. And I can do that because I'm not tied down to any corporation above us saying we only
Yeah.
work with our brands, right? If you sit in the VIP section of our games, there's a local winery that serves free wine to all of our VIP guests. and it's just kind of celebrating the cool things happening around the valley, in the valley. So we try to work with as many businesses. We try to shout out as many businesses. Every game you come to a Red Crowns game, the concessions, we have our regular concessions, but we invite a different restaurant from a different part of the valley to sell their concessions, to show off what the cool things they're doing at their restaurant at no charge to them. What it does for me is that it gives my season ticket holders a different experience every single game, so they're not bored. And I got that idea from the Dynamo. I loved that one year with Siegel when he took over. It
Yeah.
was new restaurants, new concessions, and it's like my girlfriend loved going to Dynamo games because of the food. Like
Hmm.
Trill Burgers was there,
Absolutely, I agree with that.
the Vietnamese place. Like
Yeah.
there was so many good options, and that's what we're trying to replicate with the Red Crowns. So yeah, it's our lifeblood. If I tell folks this, when you come to a Red Crowns game, you're coming to a celebration of the Rio Grande Valley that just happens to have soccer being played for 90 minutes.
Hmm.
But it's a celebration of our community, where we live, all the crazy, amazing things that all of these local genius minds, entrepreneurs, all the cool things they're doing.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy a through burger every now and then when they used to be there. They're not there anymore. But
I know.
okay, so when it comes to who you guys are, I hear like a beeping. Maybe me.
That's my dog. No, it's my
Oh,
dog.
okay.
Sorry.
All right. You're good. When it comes to the attention and support and the entertainment dollars as well, obviously this try and keep it as friendly as possible for families, for pockets, and all that. But you know, what sport are you realistically competing in the valley, and how do you make soccer stand out? But I guess you're really competing with a lot of the Mexican teams. If anything, I know there's not necessarily a lot of sports, but I guess you guys just recently got football involved at UT RGV, didn't you guys?
Yeah. So UTRGV took over the old Toros stadium, so now it's Janet Vacker Stadium. But all of those sports, all the college sports, all the Vipers, the G League, they're all in the off season when we play. So I tell our staff, we're not competing against traditional sports. We're competing against entertainment. I'm competing against Cinemark, and I'm competing against South Padre Island. Even the Mexican leagues, they just wrapped up this weekend. So if let's say you were a Cruz Azul fan and you missed our first two matches because Cruz Azul happened to play those same nights, well, now you're free for the remaining part of our season. So we don't really have any head-to-head competition, um, but we do have options down here. We love to go out and eat. We love to go to the beach. We love to go to the movies. So that's kind of my biggest competition.
Yeah.
But you mentioned England, and so we have a new team in our league, BTX Brownsville, and our league officials came to me and said, "Hey, there's a team down the street that wants to join. Are you okay with it?" And I remember like looking at them like, "Why the hell wouldn't I be okay with it? That's less travel for us. That's an immediate rivalry, so that's going to sell more tickets." Like, and I truly believe at this level of soccer, a rising tide raises all ships. I think in other places, people might get a little too competitive and like, well, no, they're going to take some of our good players or have to be careful. And it's like, dude, at the end of the day, at this division of soccer, you're not in it to make money. You need to find ways to save money. And so if that means I might lose out on one or two great players, but I just have to travel 20 minutes for our away game as opposed to 4 or 5 hours up to Austin, San Antonio, Houston, then I'm gonna take that any day, all day. So I would love a world, and not just in the Valley, but across the U.S. in Division Four, where there's clubs in every single market, and you don't have to, break the bank to travel. It's the biggest issue with American soccer at this level is the travel. And you're in markets like us. I know up in like the Idaho, South Dakota, like all that area. It's tough for those guys to get clubs because you're just so secluded. And so, down here, we're far from everybody. And so I'll even admit this. We talked to USL2 when we were starting about maybe jumping to the USL2. They have a ton of teams in Houston. And they were like, I don't know if it makes sense because all those Houston teams, they can play each other and finish your schedule. You throw us, then some of those teams are going to have to travel 5-6 hours, which I understand. But I hope at this level of soccer, the U.S. gets to a level where there's a team within 20, 30 miles of every other team.
Wouldn't that be great? That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? As soccer loving people, for sure, that would create such a different dynamics. But maybe this country is just too big. It seems that way, Kobe. But all right. I sometimes look at, whenever, like, if you're just talking like MLS in general, and seeing like LA have a couple teams and New York have a couple teams, and again you compare it to whether you be in Madrid or you be in Liverpool, and just having, how far away, you're a Liverpool fan, you mentioned, so how far away is Anfield to Everton Stadium? It's less than a mile, right? I mean, I think you could
Yeah,
throw a
so
stone to hit it.
yeah, you can see both stadiums. So there's a park that separates the two. So it's Anfield, the park, and then Goodison. Well, they used to be the case, but then Everton moved even further away. But even at that, it's like a 10-minute drive. So to your point, the U.S. is a huge land, but we also have a ton of cash. There's a ton of money
Absolutely.
here, a ton of entrepreneurs. I think it can be done. I just think the misconception needs to be fixed a little bit of where, lower league is just lower league. I think there's clubs like us that show if you look and act professional, people will take you seriously.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of our biggest role is we try to look, act, feel as professional as possible so that somebody coming to our game who maybe didn't go to Monterrey for the weekend can come to ours and feel the exact same experience as going to a Tigres game or a Rayados game.
And going into the football side of things, I know you probably don't dip your toes too much into this, but how important is, local talent, and, to the identity of this club?
Yeah, it's really important. I won't throw anybody under the bus, but I talked to a few other owners at this level, and I told them our ambition, and they were like, "You're out of your mind," because those are the kids you can't count on. And to an extent, they were right. We dealt with some of that last year, where I didn't go to, and especially living so close to the beach, I couldn't make it because something happened. But then you see them at the beach, and so. I get it. Whenever you house guys, you kind of have a little bit more control over them. They're not up to no good. They can make it to practice, vice versa. But I told the coaching staff the biggest complaint with the Toros was we have all this talent in the Rio Grande Valley, and none of it is on the roster. So okay, we'll give the people what they want. 90% of our roster will always be locally or local talent, and the other 10% will be out of town guys, but they have to provide something, whether it's experience, whether it's that college how to, so that they can be the teachers for our local guys on what it takes to either get to college or get to the pros. So they're kind of our coaches who aren't our coaches, if that makes sense. So our 90-10 rule, and you see it. People come to the games to see their nephews, their cousins, their brothers. You also get people coming to the game because I want to see. I'm better than that guy, so let me see what he does on the field. So, I think there's a beauty to it. I think there's a beauty to, the same guy who helped me get my girlfriend a Lululemon. I'm just using this as an
Yeah,
example. The same guy who sold me the workout pants that I bought for my girlfriend who works at Lululemon is the same guy I'm watching,
right.
or the same guy who helps me fix my car whenever it's broken is playing goalkeeper today. So I think there's a cool story to tell, especially when, come playoffs, come Open Cup. There's going to be some really cool stories that people can tell folks with a team that's locally sourced.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and you talked, I think, a little bit about, obviously, that local talent, and I saw you guys brought in some former Toros players, or at least one of them, if I'm not mistaken, right? Isidro Martinez
Yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah. Played
yeah.
with the Dynamo during the Open Cup too.
I remember that. And so, you talk about, having, 95, or sorry, 90% of the players to be a local talent, and this kids are growing up in the area. But I'm assuming you guys are still kind of creating some kind of pathway for them to move up, right, in the ranks, as they kind of want to work towards that. And did you guys, I know we haven't gotten into season 2, but in season 1, was there any players that made that jump?
Yeah, yeah. No, we had four. And again, this isn't normal. It's more of an anomaly. But we had two go to Mexico, one went to England, and then one went to North Carolina with MLS Next Pro. And so I think I don't make money selling players, right? We're semi-pro. They're not under contract. They're not paid players. We're trying to get them out of here and into the pros. But what I do get is I get a reputation. And so I want to get to a point where people say, hey, if I want to play pro, I need to play for the Red Crowns. I don't need to go to this academy. I don't need to pay so many thousands of dollars for this camp. I need to play for the Red Crowns, and they're going to do what it takes to get me to that next level. I think this year's team might be even stronger than what we saw last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have another 4 or 5 make it to that next level. What I tell our guys is when you play with us, using my network, using the people I know within the leagues and within the industry, we're going to do our best to get you seen and get you out there. So when our season's done, I'm emailing everyone I know. But as an athlete, you got to also perform at practice, whether that's not being a knucklehead off the field, whether that's eating correctly. Like, do your part, and you can know that the Red Crowns front office are going to do their part to help you get to that next level.
It's the exposure, man. It's such a big deal. You guys are kind of, where's that Netflix documentary I'm thinking of, like last chance you, in that sense, you get up people, the opportunity is like, hey, take advantage of it. You don't know who's watching, and that's impressive that you guys are giving that opportunity that wasn't there before, right? And so that's definitely good to see. And you guys are just started season 2. It was 2 games in, Jamal. What was the biggest lesson from year 1 for you or for the team?
Well, I guess to answer both questions, I think my personal biggest lesson from year 1 is to not take everything myself. Year 1 was tough because it was a new idea, a new concept. So I was doing player registrations, but I was also filling up water bottles at practice. Like, that's how in depth I was with everything. Year 2, I'm trying to give everyone the gift of focus. We got people that I know I can trust on, or I can lean on and trust with certain responsibilities. So that's made my life a little bit easier. So that was the biggest takeaway is getting people you trust, getting people you really appreciate their opinion, their value, and let them run with it. Give them the gift of focus. As a club, I think we've learned as far as like roster building. So if you look at the announcements, we have a pretty healthy roster size, but we did that so that we can rotate these guys, and then once our season's done, we can get ready for the Open Cup. Last year we missed the playoffs, and we missed it by 1 game. We also had 4 guys not finish the season with us because they went pro. So this year, let's not get blindsided by that. Let's have a strong roster so that because it's going to happen, when that guy goes pro, we'll have somebody right there to take his place.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken too, and this is purely out of memory, I'm telling you, man, I try my best to keep up with you guys as much as I can, because again, I'm yet to make it out there. I'm usually there, not in the summer in the valley when we go for whatever reason, but when you also guys, I think, had some scheduling issues, if I'm not mistaken. I remember seeing some information that you guys brought out, so I don't know if that's also affect the playoff opportunity for you guys or not, Jamal.
I mean, we got the points for them. They were both treated as forfeitures. But that is something, to the league's credit, they took accountability for. So they created 2 conferences, a North Texas and a South Texas. Essentially what it came down to was, and we put out a statement, and I was as transparent, because I try to be as transparent with everything we do as possible. If it doesn't affect a specific player, I'll go out there and tell the truth. When players are involved, I keep their privacy. So, I can't tell you, we're going to tell you every single thing that happens behind the scenes. But what happened there was a team in Dallas decided to put the UPSL championship as a priority to coming down here. Now, what I'm thinking is they were already in the playoffs. The teams in the UPSL weren't as strong as ours. So I think they figured, well, let's stay here, play this playoff game, get some cash if they win the championship, as opposed to going to the Valley, spending so much money all the way from Dallas. The other team was a team that's just no longer in the league anymore. They just, I don't, if it was monetarily, if it was player wise, but they didn't want to make the trip to the Rio Grande Valley. So that's when I put the statement out, because we went out twice. We lost over $7,000 in travel expenses. And it's like, okay, we gave you the courtesy, we gave you the respect, but you couldn't return the favor. And we do business different than these other clubs. These other clubs, and I'm not saying those two specifically, but there's clubs out there that all they worry about is winning and losing on the field. We care about that, but we also care about the product that we put on there. We also care about our fans that come out where we lead the league, lead the conference in attendance. So it was important for me to just come out and say something. Once I get it, but for it to happen twice, all from the same region, we had to make a statement. So we got the points. I can honestly say we just didn't make the playoff because of our own doing. Our guys went pro. I don't think we were prepared, so we've built a roster to be ready for that.
Yeah, and I guess heading into this season, there's a lot of moving pieces here. I know you guys obviously care a lot of the community and off the team results, but what are the realistic goals, Jamal, that you have in place, for this season?
Yeah, well, with the team we've built, playoffs are the minimum expectation, but I think we can host the playoffs. So with the league for clubs, you just have to be top two to be hosts. So I think we can finish top two in the conference. I truly believe that with the guys we have in place. But after that, I've made it very clear we're going after the Open Cup. I'm hoping we can win. Or I'm sorry, I'm hoping we can get in just based off merit with our league. If we make it far enough, you get automatic entry within the league. But if we don't, we're going straight to qualifiers. We're going straight to Open Cup qualifiers. My like ultimate goal would be I joke with people here locally because everyone loves Messi. And it's like, I'd love to have Messi down here in the Valley playing against us at our home. Realistically, my goal is to have a game against the Dynamo.
Yeah.
It would be like a full circle moment for me with where my life has taken me from Houston, supporting the Dynamo since day one, to being now the owner of a club and having them play us. It would just be a surreal moment. So that's one of my goals is having the Dynamo down here for a meaningful Open Cup match.
Man, we that needs to be made, and we'll make a road trip down there. Especially, I think I'll bring Christian with me, and we'll meet up with Edson and have something happening down there. Jamal, that'd be
Hey, well,
hey,
Edson's going to be busy. He's going to be calling the game, so I don't know if we
hey,
can bug Edson.
we'll get him post game then. At that
There you
point,
go. There you go. Yeah.
hey, uh, so much great information you've touched on the RGV and the Red Crowns. Future, very close future here, near future is the World Cup coming up right in 2026. I know that you guys are still going to play some games, I believe, during that time span as you mentioned, but with the 2026 World Cup coming to North America, RGB being in the middle of Houston, who's hosting games, in the middle of Monterey, who's also going to be hosting games, do how or what opportunities do you see it creating for a club like RGB Red Crowns?
Yeah, I think, like our motto is, I think people will realize they have a local club. I was very persistent last year on kicking off last year. And looking back, I don't think we were ready. The stadium wasn't ready. We took over a 20-year abandoned baseball stadium, made it a soccer pitch. And you can see that when you watch our home games last season, it was a rough pitch. The ball bounced quite a bit. The concessions were, I still get PTSD thinking of preparing every single game for concessions. It was rough. And, but I told people we needed to be established for the World Cup because soccer fever is going to be here. We're hosting it. You're going to have so many casual fans, so many first-time fans. And so my goal is for somebody to watch, USA, Australia, or Mexico, South Africa, and say, oh, that was really fun. Let me go check out the Red Crowns, or let's see this local team that we have. So I'm trying to capitalize on soccer fever that'll be here in the country. I'll leave you this little tease. When the World Cup kicks off June 11th, you're going to be seeing a lot of the Rio Grande Valley Red Crowns. That's all I'm going to say. And when it happens, Rudy, I need you to shoot me a text and say, I get what you meant.
All
That's
right.
it.
I saw it. I got you. All right. Definitely taking care of that. And I, going, and maybe this kind of goes into some of the things we touched on regarding vendors, but obviously you're growing with the World Cup, or using the World Cup to grow. And I know that when the season was happening for EPL, you also guys have like watch parties and stuff like that. That's something that you know, people down in the valley can expect as well with the World Cup?
Um, to keep myself out of trouble, no, you can't expect that.
All
But
right.
what you can expect are the Red Crowns to host international match watch parties. So we will be hosting watch parties of international clubs playing each other, but it will not be a FIFA World Cup watch party.
I like it.
So yeah, we'll be doing events. We just my thing is, and I brought this from Houston, Liverpool. We had our bar for Liverpool matches. Man, you have their bar. Arsenal have their bar. I think Wolverhampton has a
Yes.
group like
Chelsea, West Ham. I'm a West Ham fan, so I'm kind of struggling.
yikes.
Yeah. But no, to your point, yeah. I mean, there's definitely that. That's something that kind of brings in some people into the home team as well. So, uh,
Yeah, and
well, can
so
you speak a little bit on that? How did it go in those watch parties that you have hosted in the past?
yeah, it got bigger and better. The first one we had two people, but that was okay. Like it's a new idea, it's a new concept. I know the fans are there. I think the biggest issue is convincing somebody to get up, get dressed, and go out to a venue to watch their match, especially in the end of the season when the stakes aren't as high. But there is a community out there, and so my goal was I don't expect people to look for the Red Crowns to be the official watch party of Arsenal or Liverpool or United or whatever the case. My goal was for these local coffee shops, bars to say, wait a second, there's a crowd there. Let me do this every Saturday, or let me do this every Arsenal game. Let me do this every Chelsea game. So my goal is actually more on the business side for these companies or these local businesses to realize, let's do this. Let's be the official supporter bar or coffee shop for whoever. So I think we're slowly getting there. People, some of the especially in the later games we did, people saw the crowd we would bring, but it went well. I think one thing I have learned though is the EPL market isn't as strong as I thought, where La Liga dominates. It's Madrid, it's Barcelona, like that. Those are the two main guys. And then I think you get the United, Liverpool, Chelsea, like all those other names. So we might look into doing some La Liga stuff because again, I think a rising tide raises all ships. So maybe we can start there, and then uh, businesses will see the magic and start implementing it weekly.
I feel you. Catch me at a Barcelona Real Madrid game, right? A
Yeah.
Clasico. Bring in the people. Um, you know, this has been fantastic. I told you I was going to try to steal 2 hours of your time. I'm kidding, but finishing with the vision and the identity here, Jamal. What's the biggest challenge of building the grassroots soccer club? I know that you talked about the different divisions, fourth, third, and so forth. But what has been that biggest challenge that you think?
Uh, I mean, there's so many. It's not something. One thing we get ourselves into, we look and act so professional that it can sometimes hurt us because people are used to dealing, with, let's say, the Texans, where you come to a Texans game and you can walk right through security. They have all this fancy technology for security. They have this fancy technology for concessions. We don't have that. We're still mom and pop. So we look professional on socials, but then you get there and you're like, what do you mean? Like there's someone patting me down, or what do you mean I have to wait 10 minutes for a burger or something like that? That's something. It's a fixable problem, but it is something we deal with within our club. The other thing is just keeping everyone happy, and I say that because again, 90% local athletes. Marketing team is all local. Ticket sales team is all local. Some people are going to make the cut, others aren't. And that's where it's tough, is like that player whose parent is upset because his kid didn't make it, but his friend made it. Or, my son has played with all those guys. Why isn't he there? And it's tough keeping everyone happy. When you put community first, which we've done since day one, that upset player, that upset parent says, well, if you're community first, why am I not there? And that's the tough part, because at the end of the day, we're still a soccer club. We're still here to win games. We still have a coaching staff that we hold accountable. I'm not going to, at the end of the season, when I talk to our coaching staff, whether it's for good or bad, I'm not going to say, well, we didn't make playoffs, but hey, you kept this player, this player, this player happy. Like, no, they're based off wins and losses. So that's the toughest part, is keeping everyone happy. I mean, even with like artwork, we work with different designers. We try to spread the love. Sometimes we just don't go with that specific design or that specific logo. And it's like, you just upset people. And I think I personally need to learn, you're not going to make everyone happy, but more importantly, the brand. Like, people are going to be upset, and I just want people to know, like, we're doing things that a lot of clubs don't do. Like, I go with like our Cotoriano collection. We worked with a local artist and said, draw your t-shirt design, your hat design at no cost to you. We'll print it and you'll have your own line of clothing. And we're going to do that with a local artist every single off season. MLS clubs aren't doing that. MLS clubs aren't inviting local artists to make their beer can to be featured on their new beer. So we just try to support local, but you're not going to keep everyone happy, and that's the biggest issue, or the hardest pill to swallow, I guess.
And being that it's season 2, obviously you're gonna have repeat customers, and the support is there. And then there's gonna be new people that are just hearing about it because of the World Cup and whatnot. But where do you see RGV Red Crowns in 3 to 5 years, Jamal? And I know you talked about, you don't have to continue to move up the ladder. So, what would be, I guess, a successful 3 to 5 years, if you can kind of put that into thought?
Yeah, well, that's a tough question to answer because it's not up to me. It's a lot like the logo. When we first launched, we were the RGV Soccer Project, and when people are asking us, like, well, what colors do you want? What name do you want? I couldn't tell you. Like, we want the community's input first. Selfishly speaking, I would love 3 to 5 years from now being fully professional, because we talked about these players that we get into professional contracts. Well, when we're professionals, we can sign them, sell them, get some kind of profit off of doing, finding them, getting them going. Um, and I tell people this: we have our loyal customers, our loyal followers. I shouldn't even call them customers. We have our loyal supporters, and it's like, okay, realistically speaking, your season ticket was $40. Your most expensive food item is going to be $2 to $3. Our beer, we serve the tall boys from Pluton Brewery. Those cost $6. The same beer can at the college football game down the street costs you $15. So we can keep this, and we can stay 90% local kids that kids that you grew up with, kids that you coached, your nieces, I'm sorry, your nephews, your cousins, or we can go fully pro, whether it's USL 1, MLS Next Pro, USL Championship, even MLS for all intents and purposes. But that $40 ticket just became a $250 ticket. That $6 beer just became a $12 to $15 beer. That $2-3 thing of nachos just became $6 nachos. So if you're okay with that, we'll make the jump. We're already talking to both leagues. I don't know where we're at, to be honest with you. It's a lot of just like beginning discussions, but we have talked to them. We want them to know who we are, what we're doing, our situation with our stadium. But there's a world where our fan base says overwhelmingly, we're good here. And I'm okay with that. I didn't build this club for any selfish reasons, other than I saw a gray space that players could really capitalize off of. And I saw a way to unite the Rio Grande Valley through the sport, through soccer. And so selfishly, I would love for it to go pro, but there's also a world where the community says, not for us. And we stay here.
Yeah, that's good. That's that you're listening, as you mentioned, to the community. And again, I thank you for joining us here, and I was excited to talk about this project and the RGV Red Crowns with you, because of, yes, here in Bayou City Soccer, we cover the Dynamo, the Dash, and obviously everything related with soccer in Houston. But as I mentioned, and going full circle, I feel there's just this big, connection between Houston and that the RGV community. And obviously you've talked about growing up in Houston, moving to RGV. I know that, other people that I know either are from RGV and then move to Houston and vice versa. So if Jamal, if somebody, listening to this podcast and maybe they're from the Valley or they have family from the Valley, if someone in the Valley, is hearing about the Red Crowns for the very first time, what do you want them to understand about what this club stands for?
Uh, this club stands for home. We have 956 on our crest. We wear it every time we put on our shirt. And what I mean by that, 9 shapes make the parrot, 5-pointed crown, 6 segmented feathers. So you're truly wearing 956 on your heart. We built this club for the Valley. We built this club to be a positive influence, a positive reflection on the Rio Grande Valley. I think it's an amazing place. Again, I moved here over a decade ago, and it's been amazing to me. We just want the rest of the world to see that, and we're going to do it through soccer. So that's for people who have some kind of connection to the Valley. For anyone who doesn't, look, you have really good lower league soccer in Houston. Off the top of my head, Houston Regals. There's a few USL2 teams. Dynamo is not the only option. There's a ton of food out there to be consumed. So support local soccer. And I tell people this: when you buy Red Crowns merch, you get a personalized letter from me thanking you for your business, because a jersey sell to us is much more impactful than a jersey sell to MLS. And I'm not saying that selfishly for Red Crowns. If you go to a local lower league game in Houston, just support, whether that's buying a drink at the game, whether that's buying a t-shirt, just support local league. If you want to be a Red Crowns fan, great. We're more than welcome to have you with us. And it's like I tell all the Mexican fans here, all the Liga MX fans, I don't have to be your favorite team. Red Crowns can just be your local team, and we're okay with that.
Well, you heard from Jamal. Jamal, before we end this fantastic conversation, when is the next home game, or when is the next game that people can see the Red Crowns in action?
Yeah, so this Saturday, 7:30, we're playing against Austin United. So that was a team that actually beat us and prevented us from going into the playoffs. So there's a lot of
a rivalry brewing there.
Maybe. I know it's a game that we had circled. So we're excited to play Austin. We got their goalkeeper, so he's with us now. He joined the good side. But for all those in the Houston area, your correspondent Edson calls our games, so be sure to check him out. All of our games are broadcasted on our YouTube page, RGV Red Crowns. And again, we try to act and look and feel as professionals, so you're going to see a great broadcast. What Edson does on our broadcast is amazing. You're talking about graphics, you're talking about transitions. It's a really cool broadcast, and so much so that after our game's over, my new tradition is I go straight home and I watch Edson's broadcast. So if you're in the Houston area, you want to watch the Red Crowns this Saturday, 7:30, RGV Red Crowns on YouTube, and we'll be taking on Austin United.
Well, Jamal, thanks once again. I'm sure I was going to ask you, where can people follow you, but just follow Red Crowns, right, at this point, right?
RGV Red Crowns on all social medias, on the website, rgvredcrowns.com. And, we're grassroots. So if you have something to tell me, message Instagram, message Twitter, I guarantee you I'll see it.
Yeah, and we'll finish it with anything that maybe I didn't ask, or something that you had in mind. If you have any final thoughts on this conversation, feel free, man.
No, I mean, our merch store is online. We ship globally, and I say that because we shipped to the UK last year. We've shipped to Europe this year. So we're doing something right. We're excited for the World Cup. You'll be seeing more of the Red Crowns throughout the World Cup. If you watch Welcome to Wrexham, you mentioned Welcome to Wrexham. We were on episode 1. One of the podcast guys that was featured on the show is wearing a Red Crowns shirt. So I had a fan text us this on our Instagram, and he's like, "Man, Red Crowns somos pocos pero locos," and that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah,
we're small, but we're doing amazing things. So your support would mean the world to us. I love the Valley. The Valley's home for me, but I'm still a Houston kid at heart. So if any Houstonians watching this, support a local Houstonian. Went to school at Langham Creek, so if I have any Lobos out there, support a fellow Lobo. And thanks for having us, man. I love what you guys are doing. And every time I do a podcast, I tell people this. American soccer, for all of its faults, I think one of the biggest things we're missing are storytellers. So what you guys are doing is incredible. The more people that can get in front of a camera, the more people that can capture content and put it out there for the world to see, the better it is for the sport. So thank you for telling stories, because we need more of this in all of American soccer, throughout all of the pyramid. So thank you guys, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, appreciate the support that you give to Bayou City Soccer, and of course we try to repay it as much as we can as well with RGV Red Crowns, and it won't be far. I'll also wear a green shirt. It's coming. I know it's coming. So we'll wear it on the podcast, man. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to hold it down, keep it forever orange, and we'll talk next time. Peace.